Hi everyone, and welcome to week 4 of educational research. I have the table that's in the syllabus pulled up here on the screen for you, and I'm looking at week 4 and the major task for week 4, which I'll explain in a moment. The big picture, though, is that this week I'm hoping that you can extend your thinking about a potential action research idea by finding and carefully reviewing a second research article and essentially drawing some connections between the first article that you read, that was last week's article, and the one that you're reading for this week. Given that many of you are full-time teachers and things, reading and analyzing a research article will take several hours of work if you do it right. So here we are, week 4. Thank you for keeping up on the discussion comments and posts and things. Same pattern, respond by Tuesday and to the initial post that I make by Tuesday, and then respond to 2 or 3 classmates' posts by Thursday. Okay, let's take a look at the task sheet for week 4, and it's right here, I believe. Nope, that's not it. It's here. Okay, so here it is, right here in front of us. And so week 4 task sheet, this is your second research article analysis due June 15th. And again, thank you very much for keeping up on all the assignments and getting things in the Dropboxes on time. It's made it a pleasure for me to keep up on the grading and things. So make sure that you find a peer-reviewed article. So when you're in the Milne Library database searching for an article, make sure that you click peer-reviewed. Peer-reviewed means that experts in the field have read the manuscript and provided feedback and things, and essentially vetted it for quality and acceptance before it was published in the journal. So if you're looking in a mathematics education journal, for example, the peers who reviewed that would be mathematics educators with expertise in a particular field. Some journals are much more rigorous than others. That's kind of hard to tell from just doing an online search and things. But look for journals that come from what you believe to be reputable. Look for papers that come from reputable journals. Again, you're doing action research, and there is that Journal of Action Research that I showed you the first week. You're welcome to look at that. But look for a high-quality paper, bottom line there. So the first couple of points here, 1 through 5, are the same as last week. Provide the bibliographic citation, talk about the abstract, in a couple of sentences, and 3, 4, and 5 are the same as last week. But question 6 is different, and if this is a 2-page assignment, I would put 1 page into number 6, and 1 page into 1 through 5. So do 1 through 5 on the first page, and do 6 on the second page. Okay, so and because 6 really gets us into the essence of week 4, which is trying to look at a second research paper with a much more critical eye than you did perhaps last week. So here, what I'm asking you to do for number 6 is draw 3 connections between this article review and the one you did last week. 3 connections. And try to support these, support what you write with information provided in the textbook. There are 8 bullets below. Here they are. There should be 8 bullets here. Review these and choose 3 to respond to. So I kind of brainstormed and put down 8 bullets here that I think will help you respond to number 6. So again, just choose 3 of these. So, for example, you may want to think about what are some similarities and differences in the overall presentation structure of the 2 papers that you've read so far. So you'll notice that journals and things, they have an expectation for how papers are sent to them with introductions and literature reviews and research questions and and methods that have all these subsections in the methods, followed by results and discussion sections. So just maybe you want to draw some comparisons and similarities in sort of how the papers were presented, last week's paper and this week's. You may want to look at the participants who were in the study. I forget what chapter in the book that was, but there's a chapter on selection of participants. It's a very important component of research. You'll notice that a lot of action research papers use convenient samples, and that's fine. Most of my research involves convenient sampling as well, but the way that individuals are selected to participate in the study really impacts how generalizable the results are to a population and things. So look at the participants and maybe think about who they were and how they were selected, and were they really the best group to use to tackle the problem that's presented in this paper. Think about the instruments or instruments or tools used as data sources. I think that's chapter 7 in your book. Instruments are things like surveys and tests and interviews and artifacts and things that qualitative or action research collectors, action researchers collect to help tackle their problem. So look at the instruments, the things that were used as data sources to collect data, the things that people responded to, and describe them as being valid and reliable. Valid meaning that the instruments are really capable of getting at the information that they're supposed to get at. So if it's students involved in a mathematics study and you're looking at some math achievement, the instrument would only be valid if it in fact measured mathematics achievement. And reliable. Reliable is different than validity. Both of these terms are explained in your book quite clearly. But reliable ultimately means that an individual's score on an instrument or on a test would be repeatable if that same instrument were used again. So reliable means that the scores that you get have meaning, that they are essentially repeatable. Okay, so a bullet here. Think about you may wish to think about and describe similarities and differences in the types of data collected and how the data was analyzed. So maybe looking at last week's paper and this one, what kind of data was collected? What did you like about last week's? What do you like about this week's? How are they collected and how was the data analyzed? If the research is qualitative, how is the data collected in a way that enabled triangulation? So this idea of triangulation is important in qualitative studies. It's really important that researchers have multiple data points to confirm and to validate any argument that they make. So if they say that flipping the classroom results in higher levels of student engagement, or flipping a classroom results in students using more vocabulary and more expressive language during class activities, you need to support that finding with multiple observations. You might need to have videotapes. You might need to have semi-structured interviews where students are explaining math things and you're listening for the use of language. You may want to have a second observer come in and just videotape or observe the whole class and look at how much language was used in the class over a 40-minute period of time. So the idea of triangulation is particularly important for qualitative studies, and it's what we do to make sure that we're not just grabbing onto one piece of evidence and making a claim. We want to make sure that we have multiple pieces of evidence to support any finding from a qualitative study. It's less important for quantitative studies because we use statistical analyses to analyze large data sets in quantitative studies, and these statistics, if used properly, give you confidence intervals and things. So kind of a long video, almost 10 minutes already. But if maybe you found, maybe your paper this week is a mixed methods, maybe it's got some qualitative and some quantitative components to it, you may want to think about describing how the data in that paper was collected and if it seems valid to you. Look at the results section carefully of this week's paper. Maybe you can compare it to last week's paper. How is it organized? I think you've noticed that results sections tend to present findings in very concise and in very linear ways. So, for example, if a paper has 3 research questions that may have been expressed at the end of the introduction, 3 research questions, researchers often, for purposes of clarity, in the results section, they'll have research question 1, and they'll respond to it, and they'll substantiate what they're saying with some data. Then they'll move on to research question 2. They'll remind you what that question was in the results section, simply respond to it, use data to support what they're saying, and then move on to question 3. So a results section of a research paper is supposed to be a very data-driven, matter-of-fact section of a research report. And the discussion section of a research paper is where an author is encouraged to essentially discuss the meaning of the results. So maybe a hypothesis was supported or not supported. And they could say, well, you know, it was supported, but let's be cautious in how we interpret, or before we go, you know, applying this pedagogy in the classroom, let's be cautious about this or that. A discussion section, sometimes authors refer back to previous research, and they try to draw some connections between what they found in their research and what others have found in earlier research. I see a typo here, I'll fix it. And sometimes in discussion sections, a good author might express some cautions in the research design that was used, and in expressing some caution in what somebody who's going to consume this research or use it in the classroom might actually experience. So these kinds of things are in a discussion section. So here's 8 bullet points here, and I hope that you can choose 3 of these and kind of think about them and respond to 3 of these. Try to substantiate what you're finding in the textbook. So look up the word triangulation. Fix this. You know, I think instruments is in chapter 7. I think participants, or it might be, is chapter 3 or 4. So maybe try to substantiate what you're saying with your textbook there. So good luck with this. Again, a peer-reviewed paper is best, and I think you all did a great job last week in finding some interesting articles. So I look forward to reading what's in the Dropbox on June 15th, and I'll look forward to seeing your discussion posts as this week progresses. Thanks very much, and I wanted to catch you on Sunday today in case you're off and running and working on this. Okay, and have a nice afternoon, and have a great week. Okay, bye-bye.